Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 12 of The Great Pretender, and we're starting a new case, Snow of London. We're hopefully going to get Cynthia backstory, and I love artwork. I was an art minor for a hot second in college. I've always loved drawing, mainly people. I've painted before, but I'm not great at painting. I'm definitely much more of an ink and pencil kind of person than I am with the paint medium, but I do appreciate the hard work that goes into creating paintings, especially like impressionistic things that involve layers and multiple steps, and especially things working with oil painting because that's a beast in its own. So I really like that we're dabbling into that, and it kind of taps into like Laurent and Cynthia's more sophisticated side. We're getting into her backstory, and then poor Edamura. He just can't go a single case without trying to help someone, right? I feel like Makoto is going to attach himself to Cynthia now that he's done so to Abby, and they've just become this little found family, and Makoto's just like going to worm his way into Cynthia's heart like he has into Abby's, and then Laurent is last, except it will probably be Laurent maybe worming himself into Makoto's heart rather than vice versa. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We still have this whole case to go. But I like that our main guy taking down is this art critic auctioneer that turns out to like basically have taken advantage of the situation. And it's, is he a total douche lord? I mean, he's definitely a douche lord, but is he totally evil for doing it? No, but I get that Makoto is trying not only to rectify his blunder, but also help out the family that's potentially going to lose their home and their business. So there is like a Robin Hood-esque vibe to this case, but honestly, I love that with each case we're changing the scenery, we're changing the mood, we're changing the tone. Abby's whole deal in Singapore Sky was a very serious tone, and this seems a lot more lighthearted, but more on like the romantic scale, so we'll probably still have some heaviness to it. But last episode was really fun. I didn't have a whole lot to say about it because it was just setting up the case, but I'm hopeful now we're going to get into the meat of it, and I'm really excited about that. So with that being said, we are going to not waste any more time. Before we start, I do want to give a shout out to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon. Patrons on Patreon, they are super nice. They help me, whether it's just through getting access to the Discord and polls or getting videos a week early. But our philanthropy tier, they go kind of the extra mile and support me in ways that I definitely don't deserve and I'm truly grateful for. So thank you all so much for helping me to do the things that I love to do and to talk to you all about these series because I really enjoy it. So our philanthropy tier members this month are Kenny, Tyrone, Dana, Edgar, Anime Annie, The Truck, as well as Arjo, Shimoyama, Larry Manning, Kenny, Tyrone. Have I said everybody? I think I have, but they're all up here. So you 9, you fabulous individuals, thank you all so much. I really, really appreciate it. You all help me do what I like to do, and I'm very grateful. All of my love. So with that being said, we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to start The Great Pretender, episode 12, The Snow of London, case 2. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this, y'all. Man, this case is getting really, really good with The Snow of London. It's hard because I really have liked all the cases equally so far for very different reasons. Abby's case, I liked the internal like seriousness of Abby's struggle within that case, and just like the sophisticated, like luxurious glamour of it all. And then you had Kasano's thing where it was Makoto's backstory and just like the heart of it all, and getting like to down and dirty into why Makoto's doing what he's doing. And then in this one, getting Cynthia's backstory. I am a huge romantic. Like I am a sucker for a genuine romance, especially when it's all mushy-gushy and like pulling the heartstrings. I'm like, all right, I can do it. Especially when it's not cheesy, but like legitimately romantic. I'm all for that. I'm not like a Hallmark movie kind of person where it's like cheesy and hammy. No, I like a good solid romance that's just like, it like gets to you. And this poor, sweet, struggling artist, Thomas, I have a feeling that their whole deal is going to break my heart, and I'm not ready for it. Honestly, I think that it's just coming down the pipeway. I'm not going to be ready for it. No. But I love this setup. Again, I say this every week, but the animation in this series is worth the viewing alone. Even if you're not totally invested in the characters and story, you could sit here and like the paintings that are shown and the artwork shown in this series. You could sit here and just look at this series and pick out little spots and pieces of the colors, of the paints, of everything, and find something beautiful about it that resonates. And every episode, I want to like pause the episode mid-reaction and just pick out stuff that I love and just stare at it. It's that good. The artwork is just absolutely incredible. But I love that it's the snow of London. We go in and see Thomas, our struggling artist, that we started out with him at the very beginning. And I wanted to go back to that opening painting where he's struggling, right? He has this image in his head. He has this giant canvas and it's red. And he has this vision of someone that looks like a woman in red hair, but he just can't quite figure it out, right? Like he has his imitations that he does for money. They're just souvenirs. He has the money paintings, but then he has his passion and he's just not found the right muse. And then he runs into Cynthia and she like, at the moment he sees her, it's like, you just know she's his muse. That's what he wants. He's going to ask her to like let him model for his paintings. Like you can see the romance blossom within that opening scene alone. And it's great. Speaking of romance, Farah, where he's like, Farah. I'm like, girl, you could do better. And I think your butler knows that you can do better. The butler's like, get him out of here. He is sleaze. Girl, you can do better. I love her butler. I'm like, I don't even know his name, but Jeeves is like on my map for trying to look out for his lady. Like, good for you, sir. I want them to get together. I want her and the butler to get together. Like, you guys are a better pair than her and, what's his face, Coleman. No. But yeah, so we established like how he's got his sugar mama that is buying all these paintings for him because he doesn't have the money. She has the money. She buys all the paintings for him and puts them in this little room for him. And then he comes and like gets to make love to her and like canoodle all these paintings. He's got it made, right? And it's established she was the one on the phone with him when he's like, I'll bring you something back for like 20 to 50,000 pounds. Like, I'll just bring you something back, something minuscule. And it's, yeah. So, but she was paying for it. So that's the thing. He was, But then, no, he said he was going to bring her back the painting. And he couldn't find anything, and so he found the Snows of London. So it wasn't even for her. He was going to get her to buy it at the auction for all that money, and he's probably pocketing a profit from it. Or he has all this money that he could get her to broker at any time and then take the money and take a cut off of it. Whereas LaRon buys the painting for $30 million. It's in a public auction. He can't do anything about it, right? Oh, it would kind of be cool if it turns out that the painting itself was a counterfeit, that Thomas had painted it and Cynthia just wanted it back because it was of sentimental value. That would be interesting, but I doubt that's the case. I feel like it is a real Montoya. But yeah, all of our players are at the auction watching, with the exception of Voodoo. He's not there. With the exception of Kudo. Kudo's not there. And so the other four, they're watching how this auction works. But he has a trick. Whenever he flips the pin in his hand, that's Farah's signal to bid. When he says, when he flips the pen, he's like, bid, and she'll do it. And he decides when the gavel goes down to get her the painting, which this is not like play money. This is like legit stuff, right? And so we see him analyzing the portrait and he says, thank you, but no, it's not worth £5. It's a counterfeit. My thing was, I was wondering when he was telling the guy it was a counterfeit, if he was like legit going to try to buy it from him for like £10 and then he's going to resell it knowing it's real because he's just sleazy like that. Like that's how he got his hands on the one Snow of London painting, was by like tricking Abby and them at the gallery. Abby, I will say this for Abby. She has gotten to be a much better actress. She has like gotten her temper under control. She's not like hot-headed and losing it like she was before. She's clearly like had some therapy, went through some soul searching, and has kind of like calmed it down. And I like that for Abby. I love the brother-sister vibes her and Makoto have though, where he was just like getting onto her and she smacks him. I'm like that. He's like, oh, ladies don't understand. She's like, I'm about to show you how ladies don't understand. And I'm like, yes, please. Thank you. But yeah, she tries to convince him, like, this is the perfect, like, setup of the con, where she's like, oh, I want to be your understudy. And he's like, no. And she keeps trying to ask him, showing that she's desperate. And he keeps saying no. And then when the whole thing with Laurent goes down and buying the painting, he's desperate. And he's like, oh yeah, you said that you'd let me use you. Now's the time I want to do that. And she's like, I've been waiting for it. I love the idea that Laurent and them set up these cons so far ahead that when stuff like this is going down in the episode, you don't even know it. You don't even notice. You don't even realize it. And then it happens and you're like, oh, this has been there all along. That kind of stuff in shows like this, I absolutely love. But the stuff with old Farah and the gardeners, of course, Kudo and Makoto are like, we're just your humble pest detectors and gardeners. And they find out that she's been going to Coleman as an art advisor. And she's like got all this, she's basically like a widow that has this fortune to her name and it just doesn't know what to do with it. So she's investing in all of this art and he's helping her invest. And she hates bugs. So what a great play, because it's a very straightforward setup where they're like, yeah, there's these bugs in your yard and we're afraid they might have infested in, gotten into your home. And a person that didn't care about bugs or wasn't too scared would probably be like, we're probably fine. But since she's so paranoid, she's like, And the moment they tell her that it feeds on like wood and cloth, well, that's a painting, right? And that's a painting. What else do we do? And yeah, she's a valued client with all the money. I feel like her and the butler should get together. I'm like, the butler clearly is looking out for her more than that guy, Coleman. So I want her and the butler to like end up in love by the end of this. I'm like, poor her losing her husband, but like, butler dude, get you some. You clearly care about her. And you guys look like you're the same age. So it totally works. But yeah. So they're like, are there German oil German cockroaches, which just sounds absolutely disgusting. So don't blame her for being a little worried. And oil cockroaches, even the way they phrase the labeling of it, makes you think, okay, well, oil, maybe they're attracted to like oily textures, like a canvas that's been painted on, right? With actual paint. So yeah, and she just looks beside, even the butler looks beside himself too, like, I don't know about these bugs, ma'am, but we might want to get stuff checked out. I love this butler. We don't even know his name, but he's just so sincere. And I kind of am head over heels for this butler character that we have no name to him, know nothing about, but I want her to end up with him instead of Coleman. They just look like they're made for, they look like they have so much chemistry. They're made for each other. If they don't get together by the end of this case, I'm going to be really disappointed because they deserve it, right? I also like how Makoto and them are looking for bugs under tablecloths. Like, they clearly are not exterminators. Conmen, yes. Exterminators, no, I don't think that's how that works. I could be wrong. But here's the deal. She has all of this artwork throughout her house. All over the place. But that's not the expensive artwork. That's just for shows, not the legit art room that he... And the thing about it is, now it makes sense. It seems like Coleman has made her make an art room with all the works that she's bought for him to be hidden in this room for them to admire together, when the reality is he's just using her to get the artwork, and then he's not gonna, he's probably gonna try to take it and run or something. Who knows? So I really like that Makoto and Kudo kind of play it off as, well, we looked for the bugs. We didn't see anything. Hope you figure it out. Bye. And then she's like, well, wait a minute. There's one more place they could be. I was really hoping that I thought they were going to tell her that the painting she just bought was infested and try to take it away and counterfeit it or something. But the reality is they just wanted to find where the vault was to see where it was and what was inside. They wanted to see the nook and crannies and see what was going on. So they're trying to get, and they probably could have actually, it's funny we're talking about bugs in this episode where they're bugging things, but they actually end up bugging the vault, right? And bugging the house. They investigated the house and literally they didn't debug it. They bugged it so that they could wiretap and listen to their conversations. Also, Laurent is into that sort of thing. Makoto is not, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. But yeah, they get access into the secret gallery. There's dozens and dozens of paintings everywhere. There's that red couch in the middle where they can just sit there and oogle them. There's so many paintings. There's even some on the floor that haven't even been hung up yet. That's how many paintings there are, right? And then they basically got to wiretap the whole place. And we find out that Coleman has a thing for Farah. And at at first, I thought that it was like a legit romance. I'm like, okay, Coleman likes this woman and she bids on the artwork for him and he helps her buy things. I thought it was much more innocent than what it was. I was like, oh, well, they're just having a relationship. And I almost, felt like I was empathizing with Coleman a little bit until you scratch the surface a little bit and realize, oh, he's just using her for her money to buy him all the artwork that he wants. And he's just using her to like get him access to his own personal private art gallery. And then he gets some stuff on the side. And it's like, gross. So yeah, at first I was feeling a little sympathy towards him. I was like, oh, I'm actually feeling some things for Coleman. And then no. Also, kudos to this show for depicting like a realistic couple in this situation. But girl, Farrah, I know he gets you good art pieces, but he's one, making you pay for them. And two, he's kind of gross. Like, girl, you got a hot body. You could do better. And his personality is not much to look at. You could do better. I'm just saying, you got like a 6-foot-tall butler that's pretty handsome right outside your living room. Maybe talk him up. Is he married? We don't know. Could he be married to you? I'd like that more than you and Coleman. So, yeah, Coleman just being like, and he plays her like a fiddle. He's like that's exactly why I want someone who loves art to have them. Like, he plays her really good. And in this moment where he's like just talking about how much he like loves her and the fact that she loves the art that he likes, I, felt a little genuine. Like, oh, okay, well, maybe we have Coleman all wrong and this is going to be a bit more complicated than it seems. But then it comes out in the wash that he's like so arrogant about it. And he's like, oh yeah, I did teach you how to love art, didn't I? And he's like, I'll buy you any paintings you don't want to part with. And he's like, Farrah. And then I like that Makoto's like, no. And Laurent says it was about to get better. If that's not like, Cynthia's been drinking this whole time. Like, she is rosy-cheeked this whole episode. She has been guzzling wine like nobody's business. Abby's doing the smart thing. Abby is drinking wine, but she's also eating some chips, getting some starch in her, being like, I ain't being hungover in this. Cynthia, how she's not hungover is beyond me. But I like that, wait, for the record, Laurent is okay with hearing everything that goes down, and Makoto's like, that's rude. I love the cultural difference between Laurent and Makoto is absolutely fun. I love it. And he's like, Coleman and Farrah are having a secret affair together. Yeah, absolutely. And we get how that works. And then that's when Cynthia says, they are more than friends, but less than lovers. She's just a wallet. Yeah, they're not really lovers because they don't have like a relationship. He's just using her for cash to buy him the paintings that he wants. But it's with benefits, right? And then Abby says it. She's like, that woman's an idiot for not realizing she's only being used. Abby hits it on the head. It's like she's only being used, but, Cynthia doesn't really answer to that other than being like, well, love is blind, right? Farrah is in love with him. And that's when Laurent says she knows, but looks the other way. So yeah, Cynthia's explaining that they're friends with benefits. And Abigail's like, well, she's dumb for being used like that. And I'm sorry, but I absolutely love Makoto and Laurent's like, they're both like cocky, arrogant, like, oh, simple women. We know something that you don't. I'm like, oh my God. Like, it's hilarious. He's like, she knows, but looks the other way. Which is interesting. He's like, it's what they call the pitiful heart of a woman. When like, something is bad, but you just turn the other cheek hoping that it gets better. And you could say that's a thing. I'm not sure it's just exclusive to women, but you could say it's a thing. And Makoto's like, And then Abigail's like, a woman's heart. It means the art isn't what Farrah really wants. No, Farrah is in it for a relationship. The art, she has some void in her heart, possibly from losing her partner. And she's using Coleman like he's using her, except her usage doesn't involve money. She just wants Coleman's affections and wants somebody to feel that loneliness in her heart. Whereas Coleman, I think Coleman's, happy to get some on the side, but he doesn't view Farrah as that. He views her as just a tool to get him what he wants. So that's what Laurent's trying to say. And then Makoto's like, oh, you wouldn't understand, Abby. And she's like, you're a freaking virgin. Like, shut up. He's like, it hurts. What are you doing? And that's when Cynthia says, when will you stop? And the idea of when will you stop lying to me, I like that. Tell me the truth. I feel like that whole when are you going to stop lying to me and telling me the truth is going to come back in this series and tie back to her and Thomas. We'll see. But we see that she's been trying to act and do ballet and it's just not worked out. And that's when Thomas asks her to be his muse. And she kind of calls him out on the spot and says, well, you know, look at me when you ask and you just say what you will. Don't try to beat around the bush. And then he's like, okay. And so we go back to, before we get any more into their backstory, we go back to Coleman and Farah. And they're just like lounging around this art room. She's like, I want to see what kind of painting you'd want. And of course, he wants the snow of London. And so they decide to take one of the pieces of art down that they're going to put in their bedroom to place it with the better painting. Interesting. Like that's been their game the whole time. So I love that Cynthia's like, here, you can paint, right? Get over there and paint. You can do it. You imitate really well. You're a con artist. You can make this work. I love the idea that she's like, come on, where's your passion? And she's like, oh, I knew you had talent. And he says, oh, painting's fun. Like Makoto's he's just having time of his life. Being like, I'm a sushi chef. I get to paint. I'm going through all the motions. And Cynthia goes back to Thomas and going back to his place. And he's such a talented painter. I love the idea that he establishes with Cynthia that the copies were just a way to make money, but they're copies of painters that he likes, right? And we got a touch of Coleman noticing that, the counterfeit angle when they were at the stand. And we'll touch back on that. But you can tell his real passion is getting his actual, he'd been in a slump and he wanted to like paint her figure. I'm glad he paints her with her clothes on though. I was wondering if he was going to like ask her to model nude. And I'm like, that will not segue well into a relationship, but starting her out, like just painting her like on the bed there and then her seeing him leaving work and Chris. So we have the woman from earlier this season that was in the camper with the kid Cynthia gave the money to after she'd been kicked out of her job by that jerk. I love that little callback. So this is how she knew her. She knew her from working in that shop. Now, how she got from the London shop to the States, there's no telling, right? There's no telling. It could be a variety of things, like she studied abroad, whatever. But we have the two of them like eating spaghetti. She's like in his shirt, right? And like walking around. And then, yeah, it just slowly goes from there. I love the idea of seeing him. I'm going to take a picture where they go to the movies together. And Cynthia like looks over and he's like bawling his eyes out. Like, of course, he's the romantic, right? And his hair, I thought it was Makoto at first. Like his hair kind of looks a little similar to that in the back. And it's kind of like wavy and stuff. So I wondered if a reason Cynthia agreed to help Makoto and them at the beginning was because maybe she saw a little bit of Thomas in Makoto. Maybe. Or she gets why Laurent likes Makoto because he reminds her of Thomas. And she gets why Laurent is like that. But yeah, their relationship is so cute. Like, of course he has like the bags under his eyes where he's been like trying to paint this whole time. And then he chases off the squirrel that she was trying to draw. Like, it's really cute. And then I love just the little details of like him wiping his nose and getting the paint all over as he works. When they had the scene of the couple proposing, I thought for a second it was them. I was like, whoa, we escalated real quickly, but it's a fake out. But in that moment, I love the tiny animation of seeing his hand, like his pinky extends, like he's reaching for it, and then she like grabs his hand. Like, it's so sweet, right? It's so sweet. And I love that moment where he like reaches for her hand and he grabs it. Like, that's so cute. And then, yeah, that's just framing them as a couple, right? Mm-hmm. And then seeing like, as he gets serious about painting. And it's so pretty. And you can tell she's become infatuated with him. The question of all this is that they're in this like quasi, seemingly in this relationship. And my thing is he going to get drawn into the art world and she get lost in the shuffle? Or is it going to be revealed she was mainly his muse and that was it? it's not going to end well, but it seems like she's going back to him for help. So that's the interesting part, is knowing their relationship, right? And it's so sweet, like the two of them there, like looking at the painting and having everything done. It's so sweet. So before we get any more into that relationship, we cut back to the art gallery. And what I love is that Abigail does not have to act in this scene. She does not have to act because, yeah, Laurent, she's like, I'm being followed by this weird stalker. And it's like, it's Laurent, so it's not even acting. It's just, I love it. And Laurent's just like, I love that Abby is like, there's so much truth in what she's saying. And so she's like, he followed me and he has this obsession. And I like that Coleman like tries to play the hero. He's like, well, we'll keep him from wandering, but also I'm not hiring you as an intern. It's great. And so they go to the auctioneer thing. And what's it say? It says the auction will begin shortly. Thank you for waiting. It says up there on the little projection screen. So they go through all these art pieces, right? They go through these sculptures. They go through these vases. And the last painting of the night is the snow of the snows of London. I like the hot clock. That's great. But then he gets ready to do the little painting. And Laurent just has this look on his face like he's so ready to go. He's just like, like Laurent is ready to bid. And so they start doing the prices, right? And it says, if you could actually see up there, you can see like how much things are in yen, how much they are in rubles, how much they are in different currencies, like what the bid is. And they go up by like $500,000 increments up to 15 million. And the butler in this scene, the butler is like, you can tell he's just like, he's like, this is so much money for like, I get the butler does not quite understand the art value. And he's like, this is so stupid. He's like, why is my mistress spending all this money on this little rinky-dink painting? And he kind of knows what the drill. I feel like the butler knows the drill. He gets what's going on. He doesn't necessarily like it, but she's his employer, and so he may like her, so he doesn't want to like speak up and make her feel bad or get mad at him, so he just keeps his mouth shut. And it's like, and then he's about to call it sold, and Laurent's like, now's my time, 23 million. And you can tell Coleman's like, well, shit, I can't. He's like, I can't do that. Can't technically end the auction without it being legal. And she goes up to 4. And then he says 25. And he's like, that's 25 million. And he looks over at her. And she's kind of like, well, and you can tell she doesn't want to spend that much on it. She's like, But he gives her the signal. And the butler's like, come on, man. And then that's when Laurent says 30. He's like, we're not messing around. And I just love that everybody's shocked and Laurent's like, what? I feel like Laurent, he just loves the limelight so much. And he just loves the limelight and wants all the attention. And I love that the butler at this point is like, no, please stop already. Like, and that's when the pin drops. And that's when he reveals his cards. Like, up until this point, Coleman, just knowing like how much it's like, it's in pounds, it's 30 million. In US dollars, it's $39 million. In euros, it's 35. In yen, it's 4 billion yen. And then it's 2 billion rubles. Like, that's just insanity. And he's like, I love this Montoya painting. And then that's when Laurent's like, good, you should call it and get your money. Like, it just revealing that he wanted the painting for himself using her money. And Cynthia's like, serves you right. Like, you're just using this woman for the money and to get what you want. And then, yeah, he calls her out on it. And I feel like the butler wants to say something so badly. The butler wants to say something, but it's not his place. But you could tell he feels for Farrah. I keep wanting to call her Tara. But he feels for Farrah. And Coleman, like, at this point, I was feeling a little bit empathetic towards Coleman in this episode originally. Because I thought, like, oh, he loves this woman and it's genuine. And then the moment we get to this part, I'm like, oh, or it's not. Or it's not genuine at all. And he's just using her. And that's exactly the situation. He's just like, it shouldn't be a big deal with your fortune. Yeah, or maybe she's not been married. Maybe she's just had a butler and hasn't been married this whole time. She's just been a wealthy heiress. Maybe, I think they said that in the episode. Her dad gave her all this money and she's just trying to spend it. So she's never been married, maybe. Maybe, and this is like this love she thinks she has. Girl, get with the butler. He's hot. Do it. I'm rooting for you. But he gets mad and he keeps, and he's like, the first value of first class good goes up with time. And he's like, let me teach you something about assets. I feel like the butler wants to say something so bad. I feel like he wants to defend her and like say like, get out of our house. I'm like, I feel like this butler wants to help her so bad. And I'm like, please let them get together and let Coleman get out of there. Because it zooms on him. And he just seems like distraught for her sake. And he's just like, he feels bad that he's yelling at her. And she's like, I'll fix this. And then he just gets mad and walks away and like in a big huff. And poor her, she's like just there beside herself. And the butler's just with her. I'm rooting for that butler to kick Coleman out. I'm ready for it. And so apparently Coleman has some blonde woman that like follows him around like an assistant. And he wants to find out about Laurent. And that's when he gets to Abby. And he's like, will you work for me if you do anything? I want you to gain his trust. Get that blonde man's trust and we'll figure him out. And I love that it immediately cuts to Abby being like, I gained his trust. And then with the wine and everybody's like, ah, ha, ha, ha. She's like, nice job. And then Laurent's like, this Montoya is amazing. It's beautiful. And she's like, how disgraceful. And then that's when we find out that Makoto's been painting he's been painting a counterfeit. And so he asked how she got the $30 million to buy the painting. And she said she sold off some real estate and paid it off for you. So I'm like, is that real estate back at the island or where was that exactly at? And she's like, now you get to pay me back. And Makoto's like, wait, what? Pay you back? And she's like, you're the one who made this mess, so you owe me the money. And he's like, I can't pay you 30 million pounds. And she's like, well then, what do? I guess we'll have that guy pay for it. So she finds a way to like drag Makoto back into the con. She's like, well, I sold this land for you to pay me. I mean, you can pay me back. And he's like, I don't have that money. She's like, I guess we'll need to get the money from Coleman then, which means we need your help. Like she just wheels him back in, right? And I love that Laurent's like, Farah, Farah. Like they've listened to him. Him singing that to her was so weird. That was the part that got me sympathetic towards Coleman, was when he was singing to her. Because I was like, oh, that's kind of sweet. But then you find out, you're like, no, not at all. Was not good. We'll have to get Farah to buy the painting from us. But it'll be a fake. We'll prepare a fake snow of London and sell it to Farah for $30 million. So it seems like Cynthia's been drinking this whole time because she thinks they're going to have to go to Thomas to get him to help with the painting. But that's a sore subject for her because clearly they've broken apart. So she doesn't want to go back to him for help, but it's going to be necessary. So she's been prepping herself for that moment, which is interesting. So we'll have to see what that's like. I love that Makoto's like, hey, wait a second. He's like, I'm on the other side of the wall. I can hear you all. Where will we get a fake painting to sell? And she's like, oh, well, you're good with your hands. You make great imitations. But not in this case. No. And he's like, yeah, obviously, I'm not him. I love that Laurent's like, well, we tried. The drunkard said laughing at your painting helps her drink more. Oh, so the drunkard was her. He's like, she just made him paint. And he's like, what's your plan then if this is not going to be the case? And she has Thomas in mind, a great painter. And maybe it's not Thomas. Maybe that's a fake out. Maybe it's someone else. So nobody's buying their paintings, right? And he makes note that it's going to be canned beans for dinner again. They don't have the money. But when you look, it's like they have the fake paintings, but the fake paintings, the ones that look really beautiful are the ones of her, like his inspiration, right? But nobody wants to buy those. And she's like, if it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell. I don't want to hand over this painting to anyone. And I like that Thomas is like, oh, well, it means my painting's worth something. And that's when Coleman sees his work and how good he is at painting. And he's like, if you had old paints, it would look like the original. And him looking at it, he's like, you have a skill for making counterfeits. So I feel like it's a little bit more sinister than that. The question is, will Coleman, in the next episode, will we find out that Coleman's been trying to have him paint counterfeits or to like fool people and him get the real one? Or is he going to call Thomas out on his counterfeit painting or try to get him arrested? Or is that whole counterfeit thing just a preference for us, the audience, that it's going to be Thomas that she goes to get the counterfeit painting? We're not sure. But man, the humor of this episode, the romance, I feel for Thomas. I feel like Thomas and Cynthia, maybe the relationship just wasn't meant to be and it fizzled out, which happens so often. But it's just so sad because you see like the sparks of that relationship and you see it start to bloom, and then you see Cynthia now and she's just like dreading the possibility of seeing him again. She's like, oh, I don't want to go that way. She's like, no. But I love this. I love just Laurent and Makoto's back and forth of being like them snuffing each other. I'm like, you guys are ridiculous. But I'm really enjoying this second case. This is a lot of fun, and I'm really excited. I don't know how long I'm going to wait till I watch part 3 because I'm really curious. I want to see more of Thomas and Cynthia's relationship, and I want to see the falling out, even though it's going to probably like kick my butt. And I want to see that butler get with Farrah. I want to see Farrah and that butler get together by the end of this. That's my goal. I want to see Farrah and the butler get together. I want Thomas and Cynthia to get resolution like Abby's got resolution in the last case. But we'll see, right? So in any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. I hope you all enjoyed this reaction discussion. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts down below. But in the meantime, I'll be back next week with episode 13 of The Great Pretender. Bye.